Legacy Week 11 not only brings us 1 week closer to the fantasy playoffs, but it brought us a pretty crazy week. Lots of teams in the green. I think a few more hit their or went over their predicteds by a lot, whereas a few of us did miss. But I'd say we were on the green side as opposed to the red. That's always an exciting week. Tons of scores, a few crazy individual performances. Sadly, a few of those individual performances were on our bench, but we'll get to that. First, quick stop for the NFL before we get to look at how Week 11 is going to shape our league. For the most part, Week 11 was kind of fun. Scores were high for the most part, and while you can't win them all, in this particular case, I think we're going to see more green and over-predicted Yahoo teams than under. Even if we actually go to the league as a whole, it's like a bit too perfect right now. Everything kind of just is as it's supposed to be, I guess. Our playoff teams in each of the AFC and NFC, there's 7 teams that are above 500 in each conference. There's our playoff teams right there. We look at even the close and upset games. I mean, I'm sure if you're a Bears fan, you're just getting tired of these heartbreaking losses. No shots fired on this one, but the Packers kind of always beat the Bears, and they did, even though it was a blocked field goal that did it. The Bills upset the Chiefs, or not really an upset. They actually were favored, but that's because even though the Chiefs were undefeated and now we don't have an undefeated team, the Bills kind of always beat the Chiefs in the regular season. So not really super newsworthy, even though it was a pretty entertaining game. NFC North was pretty much as it is, a super defensive slog. Or we look at a team like the Cleveland Browns, who unfortunately have bumped into the Saints during a 2-game winning streak after they get a new coach and he clogs the toilet. Suddenly they're unbeatable. The Browns actually did throw for a lot of yards, even though their best offensive player didn't really get off the go, but Taysom Hill occasionally is going to Taysom Hill, and that's just kind of what we expect. Turns out he was the Tim Tebow everyone actually wanted all along, but once or twice a year, he has a game that just wins fantasy teams and wins actual games. So, again, kind of too perfect. Even some of the teams we love to kick when they're down. I mean, the Jets did what the Jets do, and under the Aaron Rodgers regime, they lose because that's just what they do. It was a close one, and they played okay, but they lost. And then they fired a coach for Rodgers, but not for Rodgers, but, for Rodgers, because that's what they do. Dallas is either really, really good or funny when they're bad, and right now Jerry Jones can't admit that he's blinding his own players and then almost, and I say this because it didn't happen, almost slicing fans in half ghost ship style because we have things falling from the ceilings. And he's just kind of like, yeah, that's football. Because, yeah, it's Jerry Jones. And it's kind of just too perfect right now. Even we had our best team, arguably, I think you got to admit, the Lions are right now probably the best team in the league. And they just put like high school stats up on the worst team, or one of them, in Jacksonville. I mean, we're talking like when you're good at Madden, but you still play in beginner mode kind of stats. Goff had almost as many touchdowns this week as he had interceptions last week, so that's saying something. So I'm not really sure what to expect from here. Is this just what we get for the next couple weeks as we head into our fantasy playoffs, that everything just is as it should be? I don't think it can be. We got 6 teams on the bye. It's a huge bye week. It's going to have massive implications for our season, even though the NFL knows it's going to be fantasy season. They just don't seem to care. Which, again, that was about right, but I don't know. I'm waiting for something crazy to happen in Week 12. I don't know if it's just going to be like normal kind of crazy, some Rojo Caliente crazy, or like Rodgers is going to retire, because let's be honest, I don't know any team that now would want to hire him when you're going to lose and you're going to lose your staff. But he probably, if we're going to go off the wall crazy, wouldn't that be he quits, joins a fake doctor and a media personality and running a country? I mean, that's in the cards. We are in that zone, unfortunately. Anyway, we'll see how it goes, because obviously we're shifting our focus here. NFL is great and obviously what we're going for, but come on. We're almost in the playoff stretch here and fantasy sports outweighs it. So let's get right to the scores. I think I said to both of you that it was going to be a huge matchup and you definitely wanted to take it down, and I guess you both kind of listened. I mean, Rushke 150 is going to win you most of these matchups, as you see by some of the other opponents that got wins and losses, but you went against Woody, who had the number 1 spot this week, and this one was riddled with people on our top 5s, and even people that wasn't. I mean, you look, Maddie, here, your running backs didn't make the top 5, but I would take those 2 performances. You had 2 that averaged out to 20 each. Not too shabby throwing Brown. That's still a pretty decent run. You had the defense 3. You had the tight end 3. You had the wide receiver 1, so all good things there. Rushki, on your part, you did have the tight end 2 and the running back 5, as well as, unfortunately for you, the wide receiver 2 on your bench. That was Higgins. You definitely still had some good performances. I mean, Lamb, I can't believe he actually got that many yards in that game from Dallas. You did have some down performances, however, with obviously Henry not living up to snuff. And maybe your defense, you thought they could have got squeaked out a few more points. But let's be honest, you needed some master performances. So not even a decent performance from your boy Caleb could have really helped you out here. Maddie, this was a big one for you. Obviously, both you can see you're tied 6-5. We're going to see when we get to the schedule and the template, the standings, that every win obviously is going to have impact, but this one especially, Maddie, it's not just the win, it's also the points. Gene can play fast and loose now that he doesn't care about all this undefeated nonsense. So sure, you didn't push 200, but 187, not that bad, was it? You did have, and I should say going in, I didn't have to cover this in the first one, we obviously had a pretty epic performance of a tight end / quarterback. I'm counting it as a tight end performance because I think he lines up actually probably more as a running back than anything else. But if that is the case, then Burrow was our quarterback 2. Obviously, it would be 3 if he counted. You get what I'm doing here. You also had the running back 2, and he looked like he was going to be the running back 1 after Thursday, but that's just the way it breaks down. Now, Chase didn't crack the top 5, nor did he really chase it up this week, but he only had 2 touchdowns. Pish posh. You did have the number 1 defense as well, so you were definitely lighting up the scoreboard. On the flip side here, Marco, again, I think I said this last time, 150 is going to win you a lot of it. You had the quarterback 3. You had Hill overperform, which he has not done in a long time. Will Dissly was also a great pickup. But sadly for you, it wasn't enough. Now, you did leave some points on the bench, but it wasn't really going to help you out. You needed definitely a few guys to go off, or maybe to have randomly had that tight end that we know went off go in. You needed one of those kind of performances. It didn't happen. So now you are in that point. We're going to get to the standings where we see you were definitely, I don't know if you're out, but you're going to be close. So you definitely got to go for a run. But I know you'll fight to the bitter end. Gene, I think you're just counting it down until the playoffs happen. And I don't even think there's a chance that you lose a top 2 spot or a number 1. So you're looking pretty. You just want to coast in and make sure the guys stay healthy. A few weeks ago, Connor, you were on the losing side of things. I think you were below 500, but I kept saying, watch out, he's scoring a ton. We don't need Connor to go on a run. And then Connor's been going on a bit of a run. Now, this was actually kind of an epic down week for you. I just mentioned a couple people that would have taken you down because even in their losses, they had 150. But you did squeak one through. And Rennie here, this is obviously a big matchup. Now we've got our second and third. Both of you are kind of on the high end of the tie spectrum. So let's see kind of how we worked it out. Connor, you didn't actually get your boy Hurts on this one. And in fact, you had a lot of your big dogs not really step up as much. But you definitely had Mixon, and that was a huge one for you. You also did have, this was a bit of a Monday night kind of closeness. Now, you were a 63% favorite going into the night, Connor, but you had Mixon and Nico Collins, and Rennie had almost a 27-point lead. Unfortunately for you, Rennie, Nico did do his part for you. Mixon just definitely didn't. He pretty much took it down just on his own. Plus, I mean, your quarterbacks were fine, but I think you know where I'm heading with this. You did have the quarterback 1 on your bench, and I did the math. Now, let's be honest. We had some people here on the bench that would have helped out Connor, but had you put in Goff for Mahomes, I know that's not necessarily what Yahoo says to do, but had you done it, you would have squeaked this one out. Don't panic. Top 3 is still top 3. Now, you haven't clinched anything, as we're going to see. There's a lot of ties, but you're a couple weeks into the play or left until the playoffs, and you're both in the top 3. Things could be a lot worse. Speaking of things could be a lot worse, we got 2 teams just clinging on. Now, I thought maybe this win would actually pop me past Max, and unfortunately it didn't. So, Kent, you didn't take the win, but AC Slater and his stretchy jeans has a lot of give here. You held on just with your fingertips right now to the 6th spot, which I would obviously trade you for. I'm just behind, even though we're tied. We're going to see that in a couple matchups to see exactly how close it is. Now, your boy McCaffrey did come back, and obviously you're still kind of hoping he pops back into form. In the meantime, Monty did just fine for you. He was our wide receiver 4. And actually, if we scroll down, I think we're both going to be a little upset. You had the wide receiver, I said wide receiver. I meant running back. because I looked and Judy was the wide receiver 4. So that's kind of a bummer. Now, for me, I made the right quarterback decision, but Henry, I don't know. I'm not a math major, but I think 12.3 is slightly higher than what Kraft gave me. Denver actually would have been a slight increase on my defense as well. That was actually the defense, both 2 and 5. I started the wrong one on that one, so wah wah. But can't complain. I just went over my predicteds. I got a much needed win, and this one is really going to come down to the strokes here. If we're looking at the number of teams that are tied like this, I'm lucky to get the win, but by no means are either one of us in or out of the woods at this point. Tim, you did your best to blow this one, and I say that not actually trying to be mean, but actually you technically, because you remember how I said the quarterbacks, you had quarterback 4 and 5, but had the guy in your bench been in their lineup, you technically would have had 1, 5, and 6. So you definitely had some points to potentially push. You did have your wide receiver 5. Pocket had a great game. But I know you think Kittle, but if you look on your bench, either one of your tight ends, Njoku actually was the tight end 4, and obviously Hill was the tight end 1. Now, we can look back and then say what could have been, because even Williams was a top scorer for you. So your bench was certainly lighting it up. Jeff, it just wasn't going to work out for you. You pretty much were going commando. This was a huge bye week for you, but it looks like no matter what Timmer did, he was going to take you down, because even his bench was going electric. Now, you still had put up a good fight, Breece Hall. You got to be pretty happy with that. He's finally looking like the running back you paid so much for. He was the running back 3. We'll see if we can hold it. And defensively, Detroit was the 4th scoring defense. You had some over performances, true, but you needed a Monday Night Miracle. He had Tank Dell, who didn't really step up, but you had Jake Ferguson, who really, really, really didn't step up, and he had a 9-point advantage. So that's all he needed. That one put this one in the bag. So, Jeff, that would have been a big one for you because you can't afford too many losses in a row. And just like I said before, Tim, keep being competitive. I don't know if you're technically and mathematically out, but I definitely know if you lose one more, you got to be. So we know Gene's in, and we know the rest of us just want a tie, apparently. So we've got this massive 4-way tie for second, and then a massive 3-way tie for that last playoff spot, and then 2 teams who are about to go on a run and just wreck everyone's day. So let's see how the matchups pan out. Weirdly enough, except for one exception, as it looks, it's a team currently in the playoffs with the team currently out of the playoffs. Actually, as someone on the outside in, this is kind of an advantage because, I'd rather play someone who's just on the cusp, but, if I play a 7, 8, or 9, or 10, or I am 7, and one of the top 6 don't lose, then obviously I can't get in there. So this one you hope for some jumbling. We see if we want to reshuffle the deck. The only one who, in terms of the deck, got just a bad deal, we're looking at Kent here. You're going to have to prove your weight against Gene the Machine. Now, this is an epic bye week, so I fully expect some crazy fireworks to go on here. So maybe this is the week, Kent, that you kind of cement it with a big win. The rest of us on the outside are going to be trying to take down people from the inside, so this could go status quo, top 6 could win, and it could cement it, or we could even toss this salad even more. All right, Legacy, you can tell I'm excited because I just said toss salad and kept a straight face, or at least tried to. Don't know how I actually did. We'll see in the repeat here. Moving into week 12, I've said it already, epic bye weeks. This is horrible NFL. Screw you for 6 teams being off this close. And you're going to see that in the next couple weeks, that doesn't go away anywhere. It's going to really throw a wrench in the mix. Although maybe since I'm on the outside looking in, I want a wrench in the mix. Who knows? I'm getting pretty excited. We're not too far from the Thursday kickoff. I think this week's going to be pretty epic. I think we still have a few more adds and drops to have happen in between. So let's see how it pans out. Obviously, this one's another important week. I think they're all going to be from here on out. It's pretty much the playoffs for some of us. Let's see what that boils into. So good luck, everyone, in week 12.